It was a cold September morning in 2004 when a group of hikers made a chilling discovery in the remote Yorkshire Dales. Lying near a rocky outcrop, partially covered by leaves and frost, was the body of a woman. She had no ID, no personal belongings, just a gold wedding band with an inscription in Thai. For years, she was known only as the Lady of the Hills. Despite extensive investigations, her identity remained a mystery. Authorities searched missing persons databases, appealed for information, and followed countless leads. But it was as if this woman had never existed. Then, in 2019, a breakthrough changed everything. Advanced DNA testing identified her as Lamjwan Kenya, a Thai woman who had moved to the UK after marrying a British man, David Armitage. But the revelation only led to more disturbing questions. If she was married, why was her disappearance never reported? Forensic experts ruled her cause of death as inconclusive, but suspicions swirled for years. And then, in February 2025, after nearly 2 decades, police finally made an arrest. Her husband, David Armitage, was charged with her murder. It started as a routine hiking trip, a small group of trekkers navigating the rugged paths of the Yorkshire Dales, enjoying the crisp autumn air. But as they descended into a remote valley, something strange caught their eye. Nestled between jagged rocks, partially hidden under a layer of dead leaves, was a human body. At first, they thought it was a discarded mannequin, until they saw the stiffened fingers and frost-covered skin. They called 999, and soon the area was swarming with police. The woman's clothing was simple but intact. The most distinctive item was the gold wedding band on her left hand, engraved with Thai script. It was the only clue to her identity. Investigators scanned every missing person database. Nothing. No local women had been reported missing. No tourists had vanished in the area. The case quickly gained attention, with police urging the public for any leads. Experts examined the body's condition and estimated that she had been lying in the hills for months, possibly longer. Yet her skin and features remained remarkably well preserved. Authorities traced the wedding ring inscription to Thailand, but it was a common phrase, giving them no direct leads. With no clear suspects, the case went cold. But then, years later, technology would finally reveal the truth. For over 15 years, the woman's identity remained a haunting mystery. Investigators had exhausted every lead, until 2019, when a team of forensic scientists turned to genetic genealogy. They extracted DNA from the woman's bones and teeth, uploading the results to global databases. Within weeks, there was a match, a family in Thailand. Her name was Lamjwan Kenya. She had moved to the UK in the 1990s after marrying a British man, David Armitage. But strangely, her disappearance was never reported. Authorities contacted her elderly parents in Thailand, who revealed they had lost contact with their daughter in 2004. They had always assumed she had started a new life in the UK, not that she had been lying in an unmarked grave for nearly 2 decades. With Lamjwan's identity confirmed, detectives turned their attention to the person closest to her, her husband, David Armitage. Lamjwan's parents told police that their daughter had struggled in her marriage. She was often unhappy, isolated, and had spoken of wanting to leave. But then in 2004, all communication suddenly stopped. Investigators questioned David, who insisted Lamjwan had left him voluntarily, but he couldn't explain why he never reported her missing. When police searched his home, they found no trace of Lamjwan's belongings, as if she had never lived there at all. For years, speculation ran wild. Some believed Lamjwan had been murdered, while others thought she had died accidentally and her body had been hidden. David Armitage remarried in 2006, just 2 years after Lamjwan disappeared, raising even more questions. When confronted, David refused to cooperate, denying any involvement. But without physical evidence, police couldn't charge him until new forensic advancements revealed the truth. Autopsy experts re-examined Lamjwan's remains and found subtle fractures in her skull, suggesting she had suffered blunt force trauma before her death. By 2025, investigators had built a strong case. They re-interviewed witnesses, traced financial records, and monitored David's movements. Finally, in February 2025, police arrived at his home. At 6 a.m., they knocked on the door, and when he answered, they placed him under arrest for Lamjuan's murder. Neighbors watched in shock as David was led away in handcuffs, his face pale and emotionless. The news spread like wildfire, dominating headlines worldwide. David Armitage's arrest in February 2025 sent shockwaves across the UK and Thailand. The quiet, unassuming man who had lived freely for over 2 decades was now at the center of a high-profile murder trial. Prosecutors laid out their case. David killed Lamjuan in a fit of rage, likely during a domestic dispute. When he realized what he had done, he panicked, transported her body to the remote hills, and left her there, assuming nature would erase all evidence. The defense, however, fought back aggressively, claiming Lamjuan left on her own and may have died accidentally. But then, a crucial witness stepped forward, a former friend of Lamjuan, who had kept a secret for 20 years. The witness, a former neighbor, testified that Lamjuan was terrified of David in the months leading up to her disappearance. She had confided that her husband was becoming violent and that she feared for her life. Then came the biggest shock of the trial. Prosecutors revealed that David had secretly confessed to a friend years earlier. This newly uncovered confession, combined with forensic evidence of skull fractures, destroyed David's alibi. In the courtroom, David's calm demeanor shattered. He buried his face in his hands as the prosecution delivered the final blow. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for only 6 hours before reaching their decision. The judge called for silence as the verdict was read, guilty of murder. David Armitage was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 25 years before parole eligibility. In Thailand, Lamjuan's elderly parents wept when they heard the news. Their daughter's soul could finally rest in peace. The Lady of the Hills was no longer a mystery. She had a name, a story, and finally, justice. This case serves as a reminder that no case is ever truly cold, and that forensic science, determination, and time can bring killers to justice. What do you think about this case? Should David have been caught sooner? Could Lamjuan have been saved? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to hear more true crime cases that took years to solve, don't forget to subscribe.